So in the year of 2013, Apple would introduce two things in the iPhone category that would signify the next generation of iPhones, and it would also make a lot of people question. Now, I did make a video on the iPhone 5C and why it could have possibly failed at the time, but I want to say that this is not what we're talking about. But I'm talking about the second iPhone that actually was the flagship version, which was the iPhone 5S. And actually, both of these iPhones are 9 years old now. It's just crazy to think I'm holding 9-year-old tech. This is actually going to be a bit of a collectible, if I'm being honest. This is just a failure, but it's also one of those weird iPhones. But let's get started with the video. Woke up on the west side, sitting at the beach, I was taking my time. So I want to say that this iPhone 5S, in fact the 5S in general, was one of the first big steps towards a different ecosystem. In fact, it was a little bit different against the 5. I mean, you look at the iPhone 5S, it actually looks very similar to the iPhone 5 that released the year before. In fact, the 5S, the 5C actually had the A6 chip, which was released on the iPhone 5, but the iPhone 5S was definitely a huge step up against the last iPhone 5 because this had an i7 chip in it, which actually was the first 64-bit CPU in it, and actually this runs iOS 12 as well. It's actually got one more update that I haven't even tried updating to because I want to keep the current OS on it. But I want to say that even though the general design of the iPhone 5S is very similar to the iPhone 5, the iPhone 5S is anything but it. I mean, first of all, one of the biggest things which I want to say is this actually has a huge feature at the time, which was Touch ID, which otherwise known was their name of the fingerprint scanner. Now, I don't have it enabled at the moment, but Touch ID was a huge thing at the time. It was version 1. Most phones normally at the time you had to put in a passcode, which was most typical at the time, but this was a huge change, and that was achieved by the A7 chip, which came in it. Another thing that it also achieved as well is actually having slow-mo cameras as well, which was honestly not that big of a feature. Sometimes it was, but not that big. Now, I've got the silver one right here. This is a 16GB model, and it's actually in pretty good condition. This actually originally ran on iOS 7 at the time. These two were launched with iOS 7, but this guy could actually run up to iOS 12.5.6, which is the latest OS of iOS 12 that it has. Now, this only went up to iOS 10, which, as you can see, this actually has the A5 chip in it. No, it's got the A6 in it. But one of the biggest things which I want to say is that the design of this iPhone it doesn't feel like it's 9 years old. In fact, it's a lot different. Like, if you compare this guy against this guy, it feels really like an old design, because not only is this a 3.5-inch phone, it's actually more like an iPod Touch, but I'll keep the definition here. But even though this is a 3.5-inch screen, which this guy was retaining 4 inches, a bigger screen wouldn't be provided until at least 2014, which I will eventually talk about that soon in another video in the future. But this had a 4-inch Retina display. It was better but this still felt small against Android users, at least, because Marques Brownlee actually made a video when the iPhone 5S was coming out, and he said that this just felt small. And I mean, to me, this feels like a really nice size, because this was at a time when the 5-inch phone, like before the 5-inch phone, well, there's 5-inch phones before, but this felt comfortable. This feels comfortable in the hand. But I just feel like this is a really nice design. The metal and glass on the back, it's actually more like aluminum. But one thing which I was having a problem, when I was using this, at least temporarily, is that the buttons, yes, this is a very nice design of the buttons, and I think if anything that it's a very nice little touch, but I would listen to music on this guy, just something that whenever I'm carrying it around. This guy just had, it felt really just I couldn't really click the buttons well, but the buttons are really feel nice. Now, I gotta say that I've used this thing for a bit, and here's some pictures. I want to say that I've been taking a few pictures with this guy, and the pictures aren't bad. It definitely is not something that you would definitely want to carry around as a full professional camera or something. But if you were just like this was the only phone you had and you needed a picture, it could work for you. And it's it's fine. But also another thing, it also has a lightning connector, which should have been updated to USB-C, but also USB-C sucks as well. So this also has a headphone jack in it. It's only got one speaker on the bottom, which, by the way, even though it has two grills in it, this is the only one that has the actual like speaker driver in it, which is amplified in the second grill hole. So if you were to cover up the one next to the headphone jack, it won't do anything. But if you were to cover this one, it would actually affect the sound dramatically. So this also had a double flash on it, which was nice because this actually had a single flash in it. Which, by the way, the camera doesn't work on this one at all. So, but generally, I'm a big fan. The design is nice. I feel like if anything, if it wasn't due to app support and if this was a bigger gigabyte of device, then I could actually use this as my daily phone. This would actually be a really good phone to give to somebody as their first phone. Let's say you're not wanting to give a kid a full phone. And yeah, in fact, I made a Reddit post talking about which one should be a better option. But this feels like it would be a really nice phone for a kid because it's not the latest phone, but it's also, it feels nice, it's reasonable. Another thing which I also should say as well is that this was actually not remastered. This was actually more or less like updated to 2016 because in 2016 they would release the iPhone 5C. iPhone SE, I mean. Fuck. Anyways, I want to say the design generally from like the 5 to the 5S to the SE is generally just something I feel like if anything it's not that old, but when you compare something like this or even the 5C, it just feels old. These feel those two old, but if you were to compare this to the latest iPhone, this would feel old, but I mean this is a nice iPhone. So generally this is a nice device, but I mean, would I use it in 2022? I mean, I wouldn't use it in 2022, at least not, like, all the time. If this was, like, a backup phone, then yes, but not all the time. So, yeah, this is my review of my silver iPhone 5S from 2013. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!
Back that ass up.